I'm just surprised that Michael and I were able to make it for 21 years as a couple, as a romantic couple and business partners, because every step of the way, there was a block, there was a blockade, there was a wall we would hit. And I just am just amazed that we were able to sustain a romantic relationship and love relationship and intimate relationship and all of that through all those 21 years, because a lot of doors weren't opened because of our sexuality. I think it was about 1978 or 1979. We had Michel Gall with us in the Napa Valley, and Jean Toigreau and his brother Pierre, and we also went to LA and did cooking demonstrations with them and with Mondavi Wines, and then we also went to Toronto, and we were in Beverly Hills at the Mandarin restaurant owned by Cecilia Chiang. It was a wonderful place. And there were, the Mondavis was there, Bob Mondavi and Margaret, and as I said, the Gahaz and the Toigreaus and Michael and I, and our lawyer, who was a childhood chum, a woman who was a childhood chum of Michael's. All of a sudden, I look up and there are these two LA County sheriff's deputies there, and they had a large envelope. They said to the whole table, the table went quiet, the restaurant was full. Cecilia Chiang was there, and this policeman, this deputy said, "Who is William Cross?" And I said, "I am." And he walked over to me and he said, "Would you please sign this? You're being served to go to court." And I opened it up in front of all these people, and the lawyer, Barbara, had influenced Michael to sue me for palimony. And I read it, and it turned out that it wasn't just Michael that was involved in it, it was the Mondavis too, because they wanted to get rid of me. And Michael and I had just broken up, and we had been together for almost 7 years, I think, and I was lost in the relationship. It was all about him and nothing about me, and so I didn't leave him for anybody. I eventually met a wonderful man a year later that I loved deeply, Juan Diego Michel, and I read this, and it stated that I was to pay Michael 50% of anything that I made anywhere in the world for the rest of my life, including my inheritance from my family. He had paid her $25,000 deposit to do this, to sue me for palimony, and I had noticed that in our bookkeeper had said, "Billy, you know, he wrote a check to this person for $25,000. Are you aware of it?" And I said, "No, show it to me." And I said, "Well, I'll ask him about it." I wasn't concerned about it. We never had any problems with money, ever. And so I said to Michael, "I'd like to talk to you." We walked outside and I said, "Is this really what you want to do?" And he said, "Well, Barb told me that I should do this, that you have the ability to make a lot of money, and she thinks that I took you from the gutter and made you who you are." Anyway, we talked about it, and he said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want us to continue our relationship as business partners." And he was starting to get ill. And I said, "I will move back in with you." I had been with Juan Diego for a couple of years, and we lived together, and he had met somebody else. And I said, "Well, I'll move back in with you, and we'll try to work this out." I went back into the table. Our business manager was there also, and he came out to the sidewalk. Jim Edgar was his name, and he said, "Do you know what's going on?" And he said, "The Mondavis and Michael's lawyer, they're trying to break you and Michael up as a couple because they feel that they can control Michael easier than they can control you and Michael together as a couple in business." Our contract was coming up for reevaluation with the Mondavis. Our business manager, Jim, had done a whole research thing and discovered that we received, the Mondavi winery received, because of us, about $3 to $5 million worth of free editorial coverage in newspapers and magazines all over the world. And we wanted a raise from $225,000 a year to $500,000 a year. He said, I think you should go back in there and confront Mondavi. Right? He had the guts to have you served, to be a part of. He should not have been there when you were served. But he had the guts to do it and trying to intimidate you. And I went back in, Michael and I hugged, we embraced on the sidewalk, and we were both crying, and went back in, and I confronted Bob Mondavi and Margaret. They got, of course, they got up and left, and it was a mess. And the lawyer, Barb, she said, well, you know, Michael, you owe me another $25,000. I've had him served, and now we're going to court, and I need another $25,000 for my fee. And I said to her, you know, you're fired. She said, you can't fire me. I said, watch me. And Michael and I got up and walked out, and a few months later, he was diagnosed with not AIDS, because they didn't know it was AIDS. They used the word GRID. It's amazing, you know, that our friendship survived. We went back and lived together for another 13 years until he died. But it's just, then I wasn't amazed. Then I was just busy treading water. But now I look at it and think, my God, how did we do it, you know? And it seems so unfair in many, many respects. But we survived.